One of my biggest goals for 2026 is for me to decrease the need to drive every sale myself. Conventions and markets are becoming both more expensive and harder to get into, and let's face it, I'm bad at marketing. I've never been good at it. So relying solely on myself means I'm holding my store back. I could hire a marketer with a budget that I don't have, or I could get my products into more physical locations and let other retail stores do the marketing for me by borrowing their shelf space by leveraging consignment and wholesale. I'm packing a consignment order for Beetlebug Art Collective today, so pack with me while I discuss the differences between consignment and wholesale and the pros and cons of each. With wholesale, the retail store pays up front at a discounted price for a set amount of stock and then sells it at MSRP, which is manufacturer suggested retail price. And with consignment, the retail store holds a set amount of your stock, sells it again at MSRP, and then pays you on commission for all of the products that they've sold. So the pros of wholesale are that the retail store has already paid you for the stock that they've bought. It's lower risk for you as an artist because you've already been paid. However, the downside is that it is higher risk for the retailer because they're buying stock up front without knowing necessarily that it's going to move off of the shelves. This can make wholesale opportunities a bit more scarce because fewer startup retailers can take the risk of making upfront purchases without a guaranteed return. On the other hand, the benefit for consignment is that it's less risky for the retailer since they only pay you once your product has been sold, and it can be a bit easier to gain entry to a consignment store as an artist. Consignment fees also tend to be a little bit cheaper than wholesale. With wholesale, the stockist is usually buying your product at 50% MSRP, and with consignment, I've seen anywhere between 35 and 40%, although that's not always the case. I have seen 50% commission fees on consignment, and I've also seen retailers that charge a monthly rental for their shelf space. So always look over the contract and determine for yourself whether that specific store is going to give you a return on your investment. For me right now, I'm not doing consignment at stores that require a rental fee for the shelf space just because I don't think that right now I'm at a point where I can sustain that. However, the risk with consignment is that as an artist, you will be sending your inventory to a store that will not be giving you an upfront payment. You won't see a payment until your product sells at the retail store. This one has bumps on it. I'm going to trade it out. There we go. So since you'll be sending product away and you won't be getting paid depending on how quickly it sells, you need to determine if that's okay with you. And as well, I think both wholesale and consignment only go as far as you are able to foster the connection with the store. So if you're not constantly checking up on what their inventory levels are like and refreshing your display with new items, which is what I'm doing now, if you're not doing that constantly, your shelf is maybe going to get stale or empty, and then you're not going to see as much return. There's also a rare but real risk of consignment horror stories. Since you're not getting paid up front, there's an uncommon but small chance that the store owner might just ghost you and make off with any money that they've made on your product. It can be really hard to navigate situations like that, but maintaining professional communication and respect and also documenting all interactions is going to be super helpful in situations like this. I don't know how often stuff like that happens, and I really like to believe that it does not happen out of maliciousness. We've all got a lot going on in our lives, and sometimes things just get the best of us. That being said, always do your research and vet the reputation of any store that you are considering selling at. With both consignment and wholesale, you need to make sure that you have enough stock and you're not spreading yourself too thin. One of the problems that I experienced last year and that I'm kind of finally getting myself through is that between my online store and Etsy, conventions, and the consignment stores that I'm stocked at, my inventory was spread so thin that I actually had trouble keeping up. I'm now ordering products in higher quantities. That way I know I'll have enough for all of the different sales platforms that I'm on. And while that does cost more upfront, it is something that I'm finally getting to a place where I can do, and it also means that unit costs are a little bit smaller when I'm ordering in bulk. So it has many different benefits, including being able to send inventory to more stores without worrying that I'm putting myself in a bad position. You also need to account for reduced profit margins with both wholesale and consignment. Like I said, the stockists that buy wholesale are going to be buying your products at 50% MSRP, and consignment has its own fees as well. So if you sell something on your own store for $5, you're only going to be seeing $2.50 or maybe $3 of that from a retail stockist. So what I do whenever I'm ordering new inventory is I take the unit cost, which is the cost to produce one item, and I plug it into a very simple multiplication formula that allows me to see what the MSRP should be at different levels of profit. For most items, I sell at 4 times the unit cost, which means that the wholesaler or the consignment stockist is paying me 2 times the unit price, which ensures that I'm still getting profit. But what you don't want to be doing is buying keychains with your art on it for $2 a keychain and then selling it for $3 a keychain yourself and then giving those to a consignment store where they're going to pay you $1, because then you're not even making the amount that you paid for that product. You're not even making that back. So how do you get into something like wholesale or consignment? For the stockists that I'm consigned with, I went through an application form. I like to keep my eyes open for curated stores that match my niche. So the ones that I'm in are very, very girly pop, very Y2K, colorful and fun. And when I find stores like that, I'll look at their website and I'll see if they have pages open for artists to sign up. Or they might have something like an email list that artists can subscribe to that will send notifications when applications open up. You can also try cold contacting stores, so like sending an email, introducing yourself, and sending a line sheet or a catalog of all of the items that are in your inventory. Or you can use a marketplace website like Faire. Faire is a wholesale marketplace where retailers can browse many different wholesale stores and make orders through that platform. It took me a while to get signed up with Faire, but I have finally made a page on their marketplace. So things to consider are whether you'll use a marketplace like Faire or you'll take orders manually. Faire is only for wholesale, it's not for consignment. Plus, it has its own fees, but it also has brand recognition, public trust, and an easy-to-use order interface. You also want to consider how you'll package your products. Retail packaging might need to be more presentable than your default, especially if you don't usually package your products individually. Some retailers want your products to be shelf-ready with hang tags or other display materials, while other retailers will cover that sort of packaging for you. If you aren't also branding each individual item, consider doing that as well. Once a customer takes an item home, or sometimes even on the store shelf, they might not remember which artist it's from or where to find you if your name or website aren't on the product. Packaging is both protective and informative. Things that I like to include on packaging are the size, the material, the number of sheets in a pad if it's a paper pad, extra qualities like adhesive, and depending on the product, it might also need safety labels. Something else to consider is that you're going to want to set your wholesale minimum to something sustainable. I've seen shops make $0 profit because all of their earnings get eaten up by shipping, fees, or other factors. But if they had set their minimum order threshold to something like $50, then they wouldn't have seen all of that money get eaten by shipping or whatever it got eaten by. Minimum order thresholds also do a little bit to dissuade regular customers, like individuals who aren't retail stockists, from placing orders using your wholesale discount, if that's something that you have set up to take orders manually. Also, for consignment stores that have a monthly shelf rent, you want to make sure that you're sending enough products so that your sales of those products can cover that. I use a spreadsheet to track how much I'm sending to each store, and I also on that spreadsheet track the net return that I'm going to see after sales have been made and fees have been taken out. So this helps me ensure that I'm sending enough product to each store to make it worth my while. Another thing to keep in mind with shipping prices is that shipping large packages that contain sometimes hundreds of items, and especially ones that contain paper, because paper is deceivingly heavy, is that can get pretty expensive to ship. And you might want to just drive to the store and drop off your products if you can. Which brings me to local versus cross-state or abroad. It is a lot easier to restock items. I might need a smaller box. It is a lot easier to restock items, check up on the status of the store, or even go visit the store for some shelf photos if it's within driving distance. So, should you do wholesale or consignment? That is super up to you. Ask yourself if you're ready to spread your stock in between multiple different sales avenues or locations, and if you're okay with potentially letting go of items without seeing an immediate return on investment, or if you'd rather see that return immediately up front. Personally, I'm trying to break more into wholesale this year, and I've just opened up my Faire page, but I also love working with the stores that I'm consigned with. If you're near Dayton, Ohio or Phoenix, Arizona, check out my products in Beetlebug Art Collective and K Collective in those respective locations. And if you've got a cool, curated, artist-run shop near you and you'd like to see my stuff there, let me know, and potentially next time you're there, ask them if they're accepting new artists. All right, let's take this to Beetlebug. Hello. I have a product drop-off for Glitchberry.
Oh, yeah, wonderful.
There's a voice in my head, it's got a way of playing louder in the quiet. It's been getting so violent.